Welcome to Pack Talk Podcast, episode 148. And if you've ever felt embarrassed walking your dog down the street because they're dragging you, right? Have you ever seen those people? They have to cross the street, or they feel like they need to cross the street because there's another dog walking down the street toward them, or the walk is just a battle overall. We grab the leash, we're about to go outside. That dog sees the leash, it's going crazy. You got to wrestle your dog just to get the leash on it. Then you're out the door, boom, now you're getting ripped down the street by your dog. Most people, they think that leash walking or leash problems in general is stubbornness. Their dog doesn't know what to do. The dog is not obedient. But the real problem is actually that your dog has a natural response to getting the leash put on them that we never taught them to overcome. That's called opposition reflex. So what I did, I wrote a book. All right, I wrote a book called The Ultimate Leash Training Manual, 5 Steps to a Well-Behaved Dog. It's on Amazon. Today we're going to review the book. We're not going to go into too much detail, but I want to make sure you understand that leash pulling is a natural response your dog has when they're a puppy and they first get a leash put on them. And then how can you overcome that systematically, right? So that's kind of the goal. And the reason why I wrote this book, I started on a journey to try and help people with their leash walking through a blog. And as I'm writing the blog, I'm like, this is getting crazy, because I'm like, I can't keep it to 800 words. I'm like, I got to keep giving some more detail because there's all these ways to talk about leash pulling and everything. We've talked about it on podcasts before. We've dealt with a ton of leash pulling dogs. I'm like, how can we help people the best way possible? So then it turned into an ebook that we were going to let people download. And then it just kept going, got crazier. The way I was writing it, I was like, this is going to be a leash pulling manual. And then, boom, it turned into a book, and then the book just fell into my lap.
Here we are.
Basically. So that's where we are. So leash pulling applies to puppies. It applies to adult dogs. It applies to rescue dogs. It applies to reactive dogs, multiple dogs. So if you have any of these types of dogs or categories of dogs, leash training does apply to you, right? So we're going to go through the book real quick. Nothing too crazy, but first of all, Chris, have you read the book?
I have read the book.
Oh yeah,
I read it, and I read it in about a day and a half.
It's not a long read.
It's an easy read. Yeah,
it's a manual.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me open up this book real quick. So first, if you go to the table of contents, obviously you know what's in the book.
Yep.
Right. You got the introduction. Why do dogs pull on a leash? Training equipment needed. Understanding the fundamentals of training. Then you got the 5 phases, which we'll go through just really quickly. Common troubleshooting challenges, best practices for daily walks, walking 2 dogs or more, and then where to go from here. Because if you understand the 5 phases that we go through in the book, you can apply it to any type of dog training. That's the thing. So when I was trying to figure out what to call the book, it was focused on leash training. But it's like the way that we teach you in the book is the way that we train at Canine Revolution Dog Training. You can do anything with this process, right? And I tried to keep the book as simple as possible. Sometimes I got a little bit more sciencey than I wanted to, but I tried to keep it as simple as possible, easy to read. So I felt like the way I laid out the book and formatted the book, it's an easy read. Chris, easy to read?
Oh yeah. I mean, even if you like realistic, you should read the sciencey part. All right, you should read that because that's important. That's super important to understand everything. But even if you were to if you're like, dude, this is too much. This is too much in the weeds. It's too sciencey. Right. You could skip over that and still get a lot of value out of all of the other chapters.
Yeah. Because I would write a chapter, then I'd be like, this is too crazy.
Yeah.
So then I'd back it out. I'd like, how can I simplify this even more?
Yeah.
And then I know Chris, he likes pictures.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, okay, we got to have some pictures in the book
to
help Chris.
Yeah, I even colored my pictures. Mine are colored now.
There you go.
With a crayon.
Because they are black and white, Well, the first part of the book, it starts off with why do dogs pull on the leash? We know that's opposition reflex. We've talked about it before. But think about it this way. If you have a puppy and you put a leash on your puppy, opposition reflex is whenever that puppy feels that leash pull against them, their natural tendency is to pull the opposite direction that the leash is, right? So if you put the leash on the puppy, you're holding the leash in your hand, your puppy walks away from you, boom, they hit the end of that leash, they feel that signal from the leash that's pulling essentially, if you think about the forces applied to the dog's neck, the leash is pulling the puppy towards you, which is behind the puppy. So now the puppy naturally wants to dig in and pull away from you and into that leash pressure. So that's what opposition reflex is. And we don't even know this as dog owners, because I remember I had a puppy and he was doing that. His name's Bane, still alive. He was doing that. Then what I do? Put a harness on him. So now he's got opposition reflex pulled away from him with the leash, but he's got a harness on, so now he can pull even more into the harness, you know? And that was wild. And it was so bad, and you just do this every day. Every day what you're doing is classically conditioning the dog to be a leash puller, which we talk about in the book, Classical Conditioning. But you do that enough times, what I ended up doing next, because it was so bad as he was growing, prong collar. Put a prong collar on him. Didn't matter. You know why? Classical conditioning was too strong by that point. So you put the prong collar on him, he's pulling into the prong collar, no factor.
Yeah. Well, and once it's an instinctive response and that gets stronger and stronger, it's like there's no other option. So it's like, even if we're like, okay, I'm going to increase the aversiveness of it. Right. Like it's like, well, this is the only option is to pull harder.
Exactly. So that's why your dog's a leash puller. We broke that down in the first section. The next section is, and I didn't really call these chapters, they're just sections of the book because it's a manual, right? So think of this as a manual to help you get to where you need to go. But the next section is basically training equipment, and what I did is I kind of talked about each piece of training equipment. I gave a QR code if you're reading the paperback or hardcover, and a link if you're reading the electronic version to where you can get these on Amazon. You know, I'm a big fan of getting stuff on Amazon because I hate going places. Mm-hmm. I hate going to stores and having to browse through the store and buy something. I love delivery. Deliver it to my doorstep. And the crazy thing about Amazon, they'll deliver it today.
Yeah.
You seen that feature where it's like fastest delivery today, 10 a.m.?
Yeah. Dude, I ordered something at night one time. It was at my door 5 a.m. I thought I was getting invaded. Somebody was like coming and breaking my house. They're pulling up 5 a.m., ready to go.
Are they knocking at your door at 5 a.m.?
No, they just toss it on the porch.
Yeah. Holy shit, dude. So anyway, we go through all the training equipment and show you some pictures of how to hold the leash, which, that's me holding the leash.
That's your hands.
Nice hands. Mm-hmm. How to hold food rewards. I go through that in the equipment section. I also talk about gloves. Now, I do get a lot of comments on social media because I've posted a couple of videos on social media of me wearing a glove. And the glove that I'm wearing is a knife-proof kitchen glove. I use it for luring with dogs that have super sharp teeth that tear up your hand. And a lot of people are like, oh, you're a sissy because you're wearing the glove. I'm like, dude, have you ever felt a freaking dog with razor-sharp teeth slice your hand open, and it's not even like that bad?
And you're doing hundreds of reps.
Exactly.
Treats, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And but the slice, it's not that bad, but the fact that it's sliced open your skin, now your food rewards are getting into your slice.
It's like a bunch of paper cuts.
Yeah, and then the puppy, like, every time you lure it, does it again. Same spot, over and over. I'm like, holy, it's painful, bro.
Yeah.
And what happens is, because it's so painful, you stop luring the right way because you're trying to avoid the pain, right? And so your luring gets sloppy, then your training gets a little sloppy. So the easy thing to do is put one of those stab-proof kitchen gloves on that one hand you're luring with, and lure enough times to where you can get that puppy to stop biting you so hard. And once they overcome that, which normally takes a couple days, then you don't need the glove anymore. Yeah. It's a simple solution. It's very effective. It can accelerate your training. But there's these people
if you're big and bad, just don't wear the glove. Whatever. We're going to wear the glove.
That's true. Just go without the glove. All right, so then the next section is the fundamentals of dog training. Again, I try to keep this as simple as possible. This is where it gets a little bit sciencey, but I did want to read out one of the first paragraphs from the book itself. It says, "Now, this manual is not designed to be a deep dive on the science of dog training, but there are some basic concepts that I believe will benefit you with your leash training. If you really can grasp and understand these concepts, you'll be able to do far more than leash train your dog by the end of this manual." And the reason why I put that in there is because I want you to understand, if you're the reader, these principles apply to everything related to training your dog, and they can also apply to other animals too, right? Chickens, cats. Cats are a little bit harder. Not your spouse, though. Your spouse, that would be a little bit more
Still applies. Huh? Still applies.
You were effective? Effective with the spouse training?
More effective than when I wasn't
Or
doing
your
them.
spouse trained you?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both.
But the key here is these 5 steps, these 5 phases, very effective for anything you want to train your dog. Leash training, obedience training, specialized training. Like someone texted me this morning. They sent me a video of a Doberman,
Nice.
peeing on a toilet. And the Doberman had literally put its junk over the toilet seat, was sitting on the toilet seat. Literally, like its front legs are on the floor and its groin areas over the toilet seat, and it's peeing in the toilet. And they're like, "Can you train my dog to do that?" I'm like, "We can. It's going to take a lot of time, a lot of repetitions, but the 5 phases apply to that behavior as well."
Right.
Or if you see the video on social media, the cane corso drinking the water, drool coming out of his jowls, and then there's a towel next to him, and he takes his head and he rubs it on the towel.
Yeah.
Then he walks off. That is trained with the same 5-phase system, right? Now, some dogs might take longer to train in the 5-phase system than others, depending on how they pick it up, but the system remains the same, right? So I was trying to drive that point home in this chapter. There's another paragraph from the book real quick I wanted to read. Yes, we are going to use food in our training. Any good trainer will. This is how we pay the dog and reinforce the behaviors that we want. However, a good trainer also knows how to titrate their food in training, when to titrate it, and how to use reinforcement schedules, classical conditioning, and operant conditioning properly and fairly. And what that means is basically, because there's a bunch of people online, if you use food in your training, you're weak, right? And one of the trainers I worked with in California had that same thought process, right? It couldn't be as far from that's the furthest thing from the truth, right? You want to ignore those people, stay away from those people. A good trainer knows how to use food and how to stop using so much food in their training as time goes on, reducing the amount of food that they're using in their training as the dog is picking up on the behavior, right? And that can be a little bit tricky. And this is where most dog owners are failing at home. They're using a bunch of food in their training, and they're not reducing the food. So, they're training sit at home, and they're just doing it over and over and over, and they never stop using the treat, and so the dog can't do it without the treat. You see what I'm saying? So learning how to manipulate your food in training and your reinforcement schedules is critical.
Oh, and there's another camp of people, well, my dog doesn't take food.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Learning how to manipulate that food drive as well, to where
Exactly.
most dog, we've had maybe one dog in the history of Canine Revolution that we were like, this dog's not going to take food. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But everything we do, like in our training, is to get that dog to take food. So if we have a dog that starts training that's a little bit nervous, not taking food, we have a process, we have a system, which I did detail some of that in the book. I didn't go into crazy detail in the book. We did a podcast on that in the past, which I did put in the book as well, like a link to it. But there's a process to get your dog to want to take food. Now, if you're doing this at home, you have time, as much time as you need. When me and Chris are training dogs, or some of our other trainers, we have maybe 6 weeks. So we have to accelerate our training a little bit quicker. When you're at home, you got time to maximize getting your dog to take food reliably and then very slowly progress. Under the section of classical conditioning, I highlighted one paragraph. In its simplest form, when we achieve classical conditioning with our dog has an involuntary response. This means that when classical conditioning is achieved for a particular behavior, your dog no longer thinks about performing the behavior, they just do it, which is powerful, right? And that's what you want with anything that you're training your dog. Like if you say come, you want that to be so conditioned that your dog just immediately is coming over to you, But classical conditioning can also work against you, like in leash pulling, right?
Yeah.
Or if you have that person who grabs the leash and the dog starts losing it in their house, classical conditioning has been achieved to where when you grab your leash, your dog is getting freaking amped up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Involuntarily. They're not even thinking about it,
And that when that classical conditioning works against you, especially in the leash pulling area, and people go to those things, well, I'm just going to get this tool, or I'm going to just get a tool, and we talk about adding punishment too soon in a progression, where it's like, now you have to ask yourself, is it fair to correct a dog for an involuntary behavior or something they don't have control over?
Right.
You know what I mean?
You have to break that classical conditioning cycle, So I talked about classical conditioning. I talked about operant conditioning. These are kind of the two big learning theory factors I wanted to try and, communicate in the book, because if you can understand these, it makes a huge difference. And operant conditioning has 4 quadrants: positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment. I'm not going to go into detail right now on it. You can read the book, but we've all heard of the positive only trainer, right? All they do is positive of this, positive that. Well, if you really look at what they're doing, they are going into other quadrants. They either just don't know or don't understand, or they just want to be oblivious to that, or they want you to be oblivious to that, But someone that says they're positive only, if you really look and you really understand operant conditioning, you can see they're doing other things, right? They're going into other quadrants. All right, so then we get into the 5 phases. The first phase is engagement, which is building sustained focus on you from your dog. We've talked about this a ton. We've got videos on our social medias about this, but basically what you want is you want your dog to want to pay attention to you before you start teaching whatever you're learning. So, for example, in leash training, my goal is to train my dog to a leash properly, right? That's what this book is focused on. But before you can do that, you have to achieve engagement. And if you do it the right way, it's going to help you every following phase, especially when you get to generalization of your training, where you're taking your dog out. You're going places with your dog. If your dog has learned to pay attention to you, it's a game changer in everything that you're doing, right? And that's what we focus on in our training when we're working with dogs here at Canine Revolution Dog Training: engagement, right? So in the engagement section, I did put some graphics, some illustrations to try and communicate how you're going to do engagement with your dog, the easiest way to do it. But one thing I did highlight in this section to read out real quick: keep training sessions short and fun. In general, sessions that are 3 to 8 minutes long for this work are plenty. Ideally in the session while your dog is having the most fun. That way they look forward to the next engagement session. So keep it short, keep it fun. Make sure you know what you're doing when you're doing engagement. Bottom line, you want your dog to look at you. Then you're going to mark that behavior. You're going to reward it, which this kind of builds upon classical conditioning, right? You can get all the details in the book. I'm just, high level talking about it right now. But once you can take your dog out to your training session and your dog's wanting to look at you more than anything else around you, now you're ready to proceed. Don't rush the process. Don't skip this step. This is the most important step right here.
And you can do it right away.
Right.
You can get, you get a puppy, whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, even in the rescue world, now that might take a little bit more time to build it or whatever, but this is it's like it doesn't require prerequisites, right? Like we can just start engagement. It's just you're getting the dog to look at you and you reward them, and it's a fun thing. And like you said, it's important for the progression, but it's also important for your relationship with your dog. It changes the perspective of your dog's perspective of you, as a handler and as a pack leader, and it's something that's going to serve you for life, even once your training progression's done. You know what I mean?
Should be fun for you, fun for your dog. You guys should both be having a good time when you're doing engagement, right? Once you do that, then you're going to go to the next phase, which is leash pressure. Our second phase to loose leash walking is leash pressure, teaching our dog to follow the leash and not pull against it. Our dogs have a natural opposition reflex, which is to pull against a force that has been applied to them. We've already talked about this. So we're going to desensitize our dog's opposition reflex in regards to the leash and have them follow the leash when tension is applied to it. So bottom line, that's what the second phase is: desensitizing your dog to the leash pressure. Now we have a process on how to do this. We have illustrations in the book. We also have links to videos that we've done on leash pressure. But it's a relatively simple process, maybe a couple sessions and you're done with it. Because when you're doing your engagement work, you're actually kind of working on this a little bit as well, just not focused on it. And so if you do your engagement the right way, engagement's done. Now you move on to leash pressure. You're done with that relatively quickly. You're ready to continue proceeding with your training. Which, moving on, the next phase is muscle memory development, phase number 3. Once we have accomplished engagement and leash pressure training, we can use these new skills and food lures to establish the muscle memory we want with our dog as to how and where, in relation to you, they will walk on the leash. So now, leash walking isn't natural to your dog. It's not natural for your dog to walk in a certain position in relation to you. You have to teach them that. Just like you have to teach your dog to sit. You have to teach your dog to down. You have to teach your dog to come to you. So that's what the phase 3 muscle memory development is for, teaching that process. And you are going to use food lures, and I tell you how to do that. Bunch of illustrations on how to move your dog in relation to next to you, how to manipulate your dog with the food lure, how to use a leash, right, to help with that, how to stop using food lures, because as time goes on, like we already talked about, we do want to slowly reduce the food that we're using in training. And then what happens if your dog is not taking food? You know, I have some tactics in the book as well that will help you with that, with my boy Goose, right?
Goose.
A couple pictures of Goose in here. All right, so this is probably the longest chapter of the entire book, because I do want you to understand the process thoroughly, especially in relation to leash training. All right.
It's probably the most rushed process, I would think, too.
Oh, yeah.
Is what I see, like
right.
Showing the behavior. You know what I mean? We show it a couple reps, and the dog does a good job. And then we try this again the next day, and it's like, oh, they forgot it all. Right. It's like, no, it takes consistency. You got to do multiple reps, multiple sessions a day, and it will come relatively quickly if you're consistent with it.
Right.
But I think people are like, okay, we got it. Let's move on to the next thing. Right. It's like, yeah, sit here for a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to jump the gun on the muscle memory development, because, like you said, very important. And it's also classical conditioning. Mm-hmm. If you do the steps that we've talked about in the book, you're classically conditioning that behavior very precisely in a systematic way that makes sense to your dog and can be very efficient and effective, especially if you've taken your time with engagement, you've done your leash pressure, which doesn't take that long, then you get your muscle memory, spend a lot of time there developing that. You know, make sure the dog is very comfortable with all the positions that you want, with all the movements, and then you have to systematically remove everything you use to help the dog from the training, whether that's a food lure, a hand signal, a leash signal, whatever you use to help your dog learn these positions. Now you have to slowly remove those things and just say the word if you're going to use a word, or a hand signal if you're going to use a hand signal, to signal that behavior being done, right? So take your time, like Chris said, have a good time.
Yeah, always have a good time.
Enjoy it.
You ain't having a good time, you're doing something wrong.
Exactly. All right, moving on, phase 4. Phase 4 is accountability. So I'm going to read a couple sections here. There seems to be a lot of myths or misconceptions when it comes to accountability with our dogs. Dog trainers, dog people, dog lovers all view this differently, and across the internet there are very few people who can agree on proper accountability with the dog at hand. Just look at some Facebook comments. You'll be entertained. So what is accountability as it pertains to our dogs? Most would say it's a correction, but it's more complex than that. It's being responsible for your actions. Remember that dogs are nonverbal beings. Remember that our dogs don't inherently know or understand what we expect of them. All expectations must be taught. If you haven't clearly taught and communicated your expectations, then there should not be a discussion or action of accountability until you have, which is your muscle memory development. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
Like, I mean, I get that a lot, is like my dog's being spiteful. They know. And I'm like, how many times have you practiced it? Well, none, but they know, because look how they're looking. And
Right.
I'm like, yeah, they're confused.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm like, no, your dog doesn't just know.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people, like, I hear that all the time. They're jealous.
Mm-hmm.
No. They're being spiteful. They hate that I did this, so now they're doing that. I'm like,
They know
no,
exactly what they're
exactly.
doing when they go shit on my rug over there. I'm like, nah.
Not true. You know, it's a dog, bro. Yeah. So in this phase, I talk about accountability for the leash training, where you might hear hunting dogs in the background, by the way, if you're listening. Apparently there's some running around us right now.
Yeah, at least 3 I've seen. I've seen them in the
You've
woods.
seen them?
Yeah.
Oh
I can see blurs.
Bro. So we're using the leash to communicate this with the dog through the book, so I show you that. We got some links to videos on how to do that. One thing I do talk about in the book, and I did a quick illustration, is the invisible box, which really helps me personally with my leash walking, right? As far as expectation, because a lot of people are like, is this too far ahead? Is this too far behind? Like they're having a hard time understanding where to expect their dog to be when they're walking with them. And I'm like, hey, just imagine that there's an imaginary box, I call it the invisible box, next to you that moves with you. So if you want your dog walking on the left side of your body, there's a 2 foot by 2 foot or 3 foot by 3 foot box on the left side of your body. And if your dog's head and shoulders are in that box, they're good to go, right? But if they start exiting that box, that number one means, have we taught them enough? Have we done enough repetitions of muscle memory so they know to stay in that area? Or number two, do we need to hold them accountable for exiting that box, putting a boundary on that box, right? So that's what we talk about. That's a illustration I've got in there. All right. I did not go into, which you guys know that we do this. We do e-collar training in our training programs. We do
here we go.
Yeah, there's one. We do conditioning of the e-collar in our training programs. We've done a YouTube video that's about 20 or 30 minutes long about how to do this with your dog. I didn't go into e-collar work in the book because if you're doing leash training, it's not, you don't have to do it, but it can be beneficial, especially as you go from here. Like if this is your, if this book is your foundational training, the next thing you could do could be some e-collar training, right? And then you could get into off-leash work, right? The next phase, the final phase of the progression, is going to be generalization. The final step in our training progression for loose leash walking is generalization. This is about making sure our dog walks on a loose leash no matter where we go. That doesn't just apply to leash walking. Again, this book is more of your blueprint to anything you want to train your dog to do. But, you know, if you're normally walking at your house down the neighborhood sidewalk and your dog does fine there, what if you go to the park? What if you go to the farmer's market? What if you go to the local, city area? Anywhere you take your dog. What if you go to your friend's house? You know, anywhere you take your dog, you want to expect that behavior, which means you have to do enough repetitions of training in various locations to have that generalization take place. So we have a generalization progression that we follow. I put it in the book. We do it in all of our training programs. If you work with us, we do it with you. But basically, you're going to start off at a very easy place and slowly go to places that are more and more difficult for that behavior to be retained. And if you find a place where it's a little bit harder, you're going to work on it there, right, systematically, and make sure your dog gets comfortable with that type of place before continuing in your difficulty of places that you're going to, right? But super important, and this is where, you know, it really matters, right? When you start your when you start your generalization training, really matters at that point as far as being able to go anywhere with your dog and not really worry about them and know that your dog's going to be doing what you've asked them to do. You know what I'm saying?
And you might have to break that down super. I know I had to do that with one of my dogs, but it's like you might have to break that down. Like we're talking, maybe your neighborhood is too much, and you might have to train in your living room before you can go into your backyard and train,
sure.
or your garage or your driveway, and then the neighborhood. You know, so like a lot. I've seen people that are doing this almost like in reverse, because like it seems like they're getting better results because they go out to a park. They're like, I'm going to avoid my neighborhood. I'm going to go out to the park because it's like you have a less chance of running into something. Maybe it's a big wide open park, but it's not really generalized. So now we're stuck going to the park for all of our training and stuff. Right. I'm like, I'm if it's me, I'm mastering the priorities first. I want to if I got to train in my living room, you know, for a couple of days before I can make it to the driveway, I'm going to do that because I want to master where am I going to be the most with my dog? My house, my neighborhood, right? And then I can move out from there.
For sure. And, good point on that is a lot of people, they feel like they don't really have the progression in their head. They don't have a systematic approach. Maybe they want to do socialization. Right. So they're taking their dog out, but now their dog's pulling all over the place. So now they're defeating their leash training. Let's say they were working on their leash training at their house, but they go out too early in their training. The dog's practicing pulling on the leash, which is working against you, which can help hinder your leash training at home. Right.
Well, okay, so you mentioned that. Like the biggest thing I see here is like people don't like change your perspective. You're always training. We're always training. Right. So I see this a lot where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to do 2 or 3 training sessions a day, and I'm working hardcore on this leash pulling, and I'm using engagement, all this stuff. Your dog will learn the context of training versus real life. Because if we don't apply the principles, now I'm just going to go to the socialization, dog park, whatever. I'm leashing my dog up, but we're not in training, so now he pulls me to the car. Right. He jumps out of the car when we get there. He's pulling me to the dog park. We're not training on that. We'll do that on our training session. It's like, you're not going to get rid of that opposition reflex.
Right, for sure. Training is at all times.
Yeah.
And I think it comes up to like the people are like, they think of the word training as in they can only do it in a training session. It's like, no, training is happening all the time.
Yeah.
Call it something else if you need to, like behavior development or something. But when you're working on this stuff, it matters. It's got to apply across the board. So like Chris said, for us, we're going to build up the behavior through this five-phase process. And then when we hit that phase 5 generalization, that's when we're going out.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to slowly and progressively and systematically increase the, distractions that are occurring around us. And we're getting in socialization at the same time. But we're maintaining our good behaviors, right? So that's the way we do it. Moving on the book here, I go through some common troubleshooting challenges. One is that your dog is pulling toward other people or dogs even after you've gone through the 5 phases. So I talk about that. Bottom line, you might need to revisit some of the phases, right? Take a couple steps back. Revisit your phases again. Make sure the behaviors are stronger before progressing more, right? Marking, if you have a dog that's, boy or girl, doesn't matter. Marking, what are you going to do for that, right? Bottom line, if they exit that invisible box, you got to hold them accountable, right? If you have a dog that's refusing to walk, this could be like a nervous dog, insecure dog, fearful dog, right? What do you do in that situation? Go through that. Excessive barking. You ever seen that dog walking down the street and it's just, barking all the time?
Oh, yeah.
Lots of energy, anxiety, right? Or reactive. How are you going to handle that, right? We talk about it in the book. Scavenging, that's your dog that loves picking things up.
That's your golden retrievers.
Well, I got a French bulldog I'm training right now. His name's Diesel,
I know Diesel.
He likes pine cones. We're walking, all of a sudden I look at him, he's got one in his mouth. I'm like, how the hell did you get that?
They're fast, especially those low riders. You
Yeah,
don't
he's a
even
low
know.
rider.
You're like, dude.
Doesn't even make a noise about it.
Just snipes it real quick.
Exactly, and he's walking with it.
I've had them go into their crate, and I'm like, oh, how'd that get in there?
The golden retrievers are notorious
Dude,
for it.
they love putting things in their mouth, dude.
Grab
Just
a stick,
carrying
grab
it
a
around.
rock.
Yeah. It's like they'll even do everything. They'll heel. They'll do the OB.
Right,
They just
exactly.
want to hold a stick in their mouth. I'm like, all right.
Well, it is a golden retriever.
That's right.
It's a retriever. All right, the next section in the book is best practices for daily walks. Basically, in this section, I talk about like those people that always ask the question, can my dog ever sniff? Because if we're walking and I say heel, or if I expect my dog to walk in good walking position next to me, you're not really going around sniffing stuff, right? Because you're staying focused on the walk. Is there a time to sniff? That's going to depend on you, right? So yes, I do in the book recommend you have some time where you tell your dog it's okay to sniff. Then you have your main walks where you have your dog walking next to you. And generally for me personally, before I start my walk is sniff time. Then I'm doing my heel walk, right? Focused walk. Maybe halfway through, more sniff time, where I just take my dog over to a grassy area, say free. Now they can sniff, they can pee, poop, whatever. And then at the end of the walk, do some more sniff time. So that's a good way to kind of structure it. The main thing is, even when your dog's sniffing, though, don't let them pull you around.
Yep.
Right? Don't let it work against you.
And I think there's a big distinction, too, of like the dog deciding to sniff and you allowing the dog to sniff.
Right.
Like, you got to be pretty clear with your expectations with your dog.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like if you're going through this progression, it might be it's going to be the most beneficial in that training progression to just cut out all the sniffing, just teach a good heel.
Right.
Your dog should be able to go from sniffing to heel, boom, right into a heel position.
Right.
And when you have that, then it's okay to kind of differentiate it, and you give them a free command or whatever. I can go sniff, but we see a distraction, something coming up, whatever. I need them in a heel.
Yeah.
They got to go to the heel.
Exactly. I do have a section in here on walking 2 or more dogs. I'm just going to read real quick. Many people have more than one dog, so how do we walk 2 or more dogs at once with a loose leash? There is a progression for this as well. By now, you should realize that anything we need to teach our dogs requires a systematic training progression in order to teach them in the most conducive way for them to learn in a fair manner, for them to be as successful as possible. When you have to teach your dog something, it could be anything. I want you to get to the point where you can think about what you want to teach your dog and then come up with a progression or steps to teach your dog what you want them to do. So again, I've been trying to hammer this home throughout the whole book here. Don't just think about this as a manual for leash walking. Think about it as your development to how you're going to teach your dog, right? When you need to teach your dog something, how are you going to break that behavior down and teach those little component steps to build a full behavior, right? So like the person that texted me this morning, hey, can you teach my dog to pee on the toilet? What's my head immediately start doing? This is the way my brain works. It immediately looks at that behavior and starts breaking down, how could I teach this, right? Mm-hmm. What are the steps I need to take? have an initial plan set up. And then as you start working on your plan, maybe you can skip steps, right? You're working on it. You're like, I don't even need this step, right? Or maybe you have to add steps if your dog's struggling. I'm going to have to add this in. You got to get creative with it. You know what I'm saying?
And then you legit have to ask yourself, is it worth it?
Right.
You can look at certain things and say, I can do this.
Right.
I know it's going to take some time. It's going to take,
right.
How important is this behavior to me? And I mean, I'm being funny about the toilet thing, but that's a legit, there's a lot of people, I got clients that are like, I need my dog to do this. I'm like, how important is that really in the grand scheme of things when we could just do this here? Right. There are some things you just let a dog be a dog.
Or you got the people that want their dog to bring them a beer or something. Right.
Which is cool. It's cool. We can do a cool video, but I'm like, when you really break it down, I mean, in a practical sense, you see this with service dogs. People call us all the time, I want a service dog. Right. Well, we got to do X, Y, Z, this, all this. And then it's like, maybe they don't want a service dog; they just want a well-behaved dog that can go most places with them or whatever, right?
Exactly.
So you gotta also think because with time comes cost. You know what I'm saying? And so you have to weigh all that into the behaviors that you're looking for.
100%.
But I did one thing I thought about with the walking two dogs, like you're talking about. This isn't just about leash walking. And I use this so many times when I get cases of dogs not getting along, dogs trying to fight with each other. Yeah. And it's like, well, we have to somehow teach these dogs to be in the presence of each other and not engage in fights. And I'm like, right here I use this tactic a lot. I'm like, I have to be able to get these dogs to just at least walk. It's not necessarily like cut them loose in the backyard to play or whatever. It's like if I can get these dogs to place next to each other, to walk in a heel position next to each other under my leadership, it's going to solve a lot of those problems. You know? And so it's like I got to work these dogs individually in this progression to get them to walk on a leash. Now I can go another level and address a deeper thing. Exactly.
So yeah, in the book for walking two dogs or more than two dogs, I gave you a progression, our general progression. It's a 4-step progression to do that. But essentially, you're going to train each dog individually first, and then you can start working on them together. I've got some illustrations in there on how I do that, how I hold the leash, because that can be tricky too. You got all this leash you got to hold on to. So that's basically that. Then I have a small section on where to go from here and some more codes, and that's about it. So that's the quick and easy on the Ultimate Leash Training Manual. It's not just your leash training manual. It's 5 steps to a well-behaved dog, right? Whatever you're teaching them. So check it out on Amazon. And, of course, we like feedback. Been getting a lot of feedback. A lot of people sending me pictures and stuff. A lot of reviews on Amazon, which is super cool. There is one 3-star review, which I'm doing a react video on, but it's funny if you read it. It's a lady.
Read it.
You did read it?
I read it yesterday.
It's a lady or maybe a dude, I don't know, but they're freaking out. They're like, this is not for small dogs. This is for large and medium dogs. But then they go on saying that, well, he never said it's for large and medium dogs.
He didn't actually say this, but you know what? You probably should have put some wiener dogs in the illustrations.
That's
or something.
The problem. I didn't do pictures with small dogs.
Yeah.
All the pictures are with large or medium dogs.
Yeah, so it's not designed for small dogs. Like, hey, guys, if my hand's up here for a lure and I have a small dog, just drop it down. And guess what? It works for small dogs.
Well, there's in the book, I clearly state your lure has to be at your dog's shoulder level.
Right. So,
which in my head means no matter if it's a small dog or a big dog. But I now know that I should.
But that is a thing, though.
Out.
We get a lot of comments on videos and stuff. Well, that won't work on a small dog. I'm like, why not?
We've done a React video before. Where I was like, this is how you do a small dog with a lure. Yeah. You just have to get down low, but people don't want to do that. They're like, how do I train a small dog when I don't have to get down low? It's
you get a good chiropractor, and then you get down, you drop it low.
I mean, I've put small dogs on tables before because I don't feel like bending over,
Yep. I did that recently with 2 Chihuahuas.
I remember that.
Dude, I did heel on the table. And then all we did, we took the table out of the equation. Once they got it down, it was easy. Didn't have to bend over.
Easy day. But yeah, that review was interesting.
That was
I'm
funny.
going to do a little video on that.
That's funny.
But I did realize I should have put more detail that this does apply to small dogs and big dogs, and had pictures of small dogs.
Couple pictures, maybe in the revised edition. A couple of years, you put that out. Put a couple wiener dogs in there, little Chihuahua.
Exactly.
Yeah. But what I would say, I tell people this all the time. Reading is a very good. I love it as a habit. I mean, it's super cheap. Books are cheap, man. So get the book, check it out. Worst case scenario, you don't like it, and you spent $10 or whatever. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's only $10 the paperback. You can get the Kindle version cheaper if you like electronic reading, but definitely check it out, guys. If you guys want the book, we got a link in the description down below. It is on Amazon. You can type in the Ultimate Leash Training Manual and find it. If you need dog training, we'd be honored to work with you, happy to work with you and your family. Canine Revolution Dog Training. We're located in South Carolina. But we train dogs from all over the area. You might see some hunting dogs in the background right now because they're currently wandering through our podcast area, having a good time. So yeah, Canine Revolution Dog Training. We've got board and train programs. We've got virtual training. We've got private lessons. Whatever you need, we can help you out with. Hit us up in the link in the description below. On Amazon, I love Amazon. Canine Revolution apparel. If you want a Canine Revolution shirt, a hoodie, a beanie, logo, mug, whatever you want. Water cup, you can go to Canine Revolution apparel on Amazon or through the link below. Grab something then and enjoy it. If you want to feed your dog the optimal diet, that's going to be We Feed Raw. We have a new discount code. It's Canine Revolution 50. That gets you 50% off of your first meal plan. Definitely check that out. Even if you feed a kibble base, you can feed a raw topper, so check out We Feed Raw. Also, for supplements, dog supplements, we're partnered with Canine Super Supplements and Raw and Paw Company. They're owned by the same people, and you can link to each website through the other one or through the links below. But Canine Super Supplements, they have the multivitamin. They have the joint support. They have the weight gainer, the puppy formula. Good for puppies, good for adult dogs, right? The maximum benefit, dude. I mean, great ingredients. Raw and Paw Company has their own line of supplements. They have the omega-3 oils that you can add to the food. They also have freeze-dried raw food, which my dog loves, dude. Then they have their own raw food that you can order as well. Comes in a tube. So check that out. In the link below, Canine Revolution is the discount code for 10% off. If you need some dog toys, go to Monster Canine Toys on Amazon, and they have a guarantee that if your dog destroys it, they will replace it. You're not going to find that anywhere else. And if you got a tough chewer, that's who you go to see if your dog can handle it or if the toy can handle your dog. Discount code Canine Revolution for 10% off. Last but not least, Jocko Fuel. The big hitters on Jocko Fuel are going to be, and this is human supplements for you, but you can also give them to your dog, by the way. Fish oil, right? Creatine. They don't do vitamin D anymore.
I saw that.
Yeah, they don't do vitamin D. So you got to find another source for that. But they got the fish oil. They got the creatine. They got the milk protein. You definitely need to hit your protein each and every day. And they have the Go Clean energy drinks and the hydrates. Now, what I've been doing, I've been playing around with this, is I've been realizing that if I have a headache or if I'm tired or something, let's try electrolytes before we try anything else.
Yeah.
So before caffeine, or if I have a headache, I really don't like taking any type of, I don't know what you call it, but like ibuprofen, Tylenol.
Aspirin, whatever.
Yeah, I don't like taking those. So before I do that, I'll drink a hydrate first, a Jocko hydrate. And then I'll give it some time. And then if everything's good to go, I'm good to go, which that's happened 99.9% of the time. And what I'm doing now is when I wake up, I drink a cup of water, then I drink a hydrate. And it makes a big difference in me waking up because I hate waking up, dude. I wake up, I'm pissed off. I'm like, why do I have to get up right now?
Yeah, we know.
Right?
We know.
So drink a hydrate, then later have caffeine, right? But hydrate before your caffeine for your electrolytes. So if you guys enjoy the podcast, don't forget, leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to check out Canine Revolution Dog Training on YouTube and Pack Talk Podcast on YouTube. We appreciate all feedback. And until next time, this is Pack Talk Podcast.